Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Tanks, and welcome today to another tank review. Yes, I know I'm doing quite a lot of these at the minute, but I keep getting more like reward tanks that I want to do tank reviews on. So I'm gonna keep doing them, and hopefully I'll actually manage to squeeze out a tank request video at some point in the not too distant future. So today we are going to be reviewing the Charlemagne, the tier 8 British, I think it's premium, I want to say it's premium, heavy tank. This thing is currently available, if you're watching this video at the time of release, is currently available if you get to the second division of ranked, and then it becomes available in the ranked store for bonds. The base price is 15,000 bonds. However, you can reduce that down by playing through ranked. I think your discount gets added on the more and more, and I think it works through all 3 seasons this year. So if you start now, start getting a bit of discount now, you can then work your way up to actually having more and more and more. I bought this tank once. I finished ranked, so I bought it at 14,000 bonds. I would not recommend, if you're going to buy it, I wouldn't recommend buying it yet, because 14,000 bonds, 15,000 bonds is quite a lot. However, I think I have about 60k bonds, and I don't actually really have anything inside the bond shop that I need to buy. So, on to Charlemagne. We are on Abbey. This is a tier 8 full game. There is no artillery, which is quite nice. And I have come down onto the 1-2 line. Hit a very nice shot at the start on the move at the TNH. I still can't think off the top of my head what that tank is called. TNH, what is it, 105, 1000. It's a long old name, that's a bit excessive. And then this Chrysler has pushed up, so we are now starting to see if we can work him through. We've loaded premium, and we were going through his turret. So, what is the Charlemagne all about? As you can see at the start, it's not overly slow for a heavy tank. I mean, by no means it's not quick. It's not like a 260 or something like that, but it is definitely not slow. The armor is half decent, as you're about to see in a second, especially the front of the turret. And that most of this tank is all about the gun, or I say all about the gun, all about what the gun is and how it's not completely terrible. So, you get, on this gun, you get an 119.38mm gun. Let's say 120 for argument's sake, because I'm not saying 119.38 every time. This is also, the name of the gun is Low Velocity Gun, and boy does it not lie. The standard rounds only have 597 meters per second of shell velocity. Which is bad, don't get me wrong, but it's not actually as bad as I was expecting. In my head, I had it as like, you know, old Cruiser 2 howitzer levels of shell velocity. It's not that bad. And a lot of people who are saying, like, I've seen a lot of people in my Twitch chat saying, I don't want to get this tank because its shell velocity is ridiculously bad. It's not actually that bad on the standard rounds. Also, if you are feeling like a gold noob, the premium rounds have 924 meters per second of shell velocity, so that is not bad at all. So, going back to the actual game, you can see that we're being pushed back further and further and further. Again, hit another shot on the move, and that's something that you're going to see when I come to compare this tank to some other vehicles. Its gun handling, not its dispersion, so its accuracy, and not its, what am I trying to say? Not its aim time, aren't that great. But the dispersions, like how big the aim circle gets as you're moving, as you're rotating the turret and everything like that, are actually insane. And you're going to see that when it comes to it. This tank, as it is, stand penetration is 220, 270 with a premium round, so neither is too much. You see me here, I'm in a very dire situation. It's about a 1 versus 5. We did have a Chrysler behind me, but I couldn't afford to try and engage him. I'm just trying to engage, just trying to get the tanks out of the game. And unfortunately, the Skoda catches fire. He gets set on fire by the Scorpion, but he doesn't burn quite quick enough. I was so frustrated on stream. We'd done 4.7k damage, and I could have stayed alive. There was only one tank left. We fought off all these other tanks. There was only one tank left to kill, and we die because the Skoda doesn't burn to death like half a second quicker. I do stay in this game, and I tell my team to cap, because we need to put some putting cap pressure on is a great thing. We've taken the majority of map control. The enemy are only in the 1-2-3 line, and it's something that, whether you have the intent to cap or not, if you put cap pressure on, it means enemies have to push past. They have to push past things like the Brask is going to move down to here in a minute. They have to push past the Brask. They have to push past the FV, wasting hit points to try to get those resets off, meaning that then the game is a lot easier. And at the end of this game, we do actually end up capping. But that was a little showcase of the Charlemagne. We'll go do the comparison in just a second. But this thing, honestly, a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Like, it's stupid, but it kind of works. So, is it then really stupid? That is the question. But anyway, let's go, before I start waffling on about God knows what, let's go down over into Tanks GG and actually take a look through the statistics of this tank. And we'll compare it to some others. And then we'll go into the garage, we'll go through equipment setups, and then I will do the post-game stats at the end of the video. So, here we go, guys. We've got the Charlemagne on the left. We've then got two other tier 8 premiums that both have, like, 440 alpha next to it. We've got the Defender. Obviously, back when the Defender was released, it was considered completely ridiculously, brokenly overpowered to all hell. And the 50 TP prototype, which is a tank that I think a lot of people have, because I think it's been released as, like, for... I don't even know. Anyway, I'm just waffling. And then also I've put a Carnarvon on the right, obviously another tier 8 British heavy tank. Just kind of as comparison, and I will be comparing to this as well. So first things first, like I said, the caliber of the gun, 119.38, which is basically 120, which is smaller caliber than the other two, actually quite significantly. Because it being less than 120 millimeters means that you don't overmatch 40 millimeters of armor. So any 40 mil armor plates in the game, you don't overmatch, whereas these other two do, which is actually quite a big downside when it comes to certain tanks. However, the caliber doesn't seem to make a difference to the fact that the gun still does 440, as you already know, which is very, very nice. Penetration of 220, pretty much right in the mix across the board, like that's pretty much average. Premium pen of 270 is actually pretty good. Something like the Carnarvon gets 252. I think the Defender's around about 250 as well. 265, sorry. I know things like the T77 gets 299 with its premium pen. But 270 is pretty good. Like, you can get into tier 10 games. Having 270 pen isn't the worst. It's effectively like a Leopard firing standard rounds. And you wouldn't ever say that the Leopard has poor pen. So, you know. It's pretty good. Obviously, big thing on this tank is the fact that the shell velocity is trash on the standard rounds. But like I said, when you do end up firing those premium rounds, you do get up to 920, which honestly isn't that bad. Ammo capacity is not an issue on this tank. It has 60 rounds, which means you can do like over 26k damage, which is just more than enough. You can take a variety of rounds, and you're not... I don't think you can even fire all those rounds in the game. Your DPM is on the low side. It is the lowest in this comparison. Obviously, pales in comparison to the Carnarvon, but that is a different style of tank. This thing obviously goes for the Alpha, but it is definitely a lot worse than the Defender, which I would never have said had good DPM, and even how do you say that? Even worse? Even more worse? Even more worse. We're going to go with that, and we're going to stick with it. And if any of you don't like it, even more worse than the 50 TP prototype. It's one of those things that with this low DPM, you don't actually really feel it that much, because you know that once you fire, you're trying to find a safe place to be anyway. You're not having a DPM war with someone. You're trying to pull back, find somewhere safe, till you can then poke out again. Obviously, in this situation in the gameplay, if I could have had 1700 DPM, it'd have been a bit better. But there you go. Gun handling wise, this is where this tank is really weird. Aim time, 3.5 seconds. Accuracy, 0.44. Dispersions, really bloody good. And then, yeah, we'll get onto that in a second. But the aim time and the accuracy. Accuracy, that's just base, that's just shite, basically. Like, it's poor, and again, in the equipment setup, you'll see what I mean when you come to counter that. Aim time, obviously, really, really bad. However, you've got to take into consideration the dispersions. The dispersions on this tank are better than the dispersions on the Carnarvon. And the dispersions on this tank are a third better, like over a third better, than the Defender and the 50 TP prototype. Which actually means that this aim time disparity is nowhere near that much. The aim time is probably actually closer to the 50 TP prototype. It's probably better aim time than the Defender, I'm not going to lie to you. Well, I would say this thing feels like, you know, high 2-second aim times, low rather than mid 3 seconds. Especially, obviously, once you've got your what's it called? Your equipment and stuff on it as well. Which actually, like I said, soft stats make or break a tank. This really makes this tank actually quite enjoyable. And you saw in the gameplay how many shots I actually hit on the move, which is pretty mad. You do have an insane dispersion after firing, which is really weird. But because you have such a long reload, it doesn't actually matter. So it's not the end of the world. Gun depression, really good gun depression, 10 degrees, which is obviously very nice. Same as the 50 TP prototype, which obviously sets it apart from the Defender that only has 6. It's something that allows me to work, you saw in the gameplay, allow me to work that ridge, using my turret armor and everything like that. Mobility-wise, again, this tank's not actually that bad. Quickest in this comparison, only goes 35, the top speed is quite limited. However, you've got a decent horsepower per ton of 16.67, so 16 2/3. Which again is best in this comparison. And the terrain resistances as well are actually pretty good, which do allow you to, like, as you can see from the actual speeds here, your hard terrain, medium terrain are the quickest. Your hard terrain is the quickest, along with the thingy and God's sakes, object and the 50 TP. And when it comes to medium and softs, because your terrain resistances are better, you actually maintain a lot more speed over those kind of terrains. I've said terrain too many times. It doesn't sound like a word anymore. The numbers, Mason, what do they mean? Turret traverse, 28 degrees a second, little on the slow side, not too tragic. And tank traverse at 26 degrees a second, which is quite low. But again, if you played like the Carnarvon, you're used to kind of stats like that. So, yeah, mobility, honestly, not that bad. We'll do the armor in a second. 1500 hit points, that's a tier 8 heavy, that's always has been a tier 8 heavy, pretty much average in there. Camera ratings, we don't really care about. 380 meters view range, actually pretty good, obviously not the Defender's 350, which is disgusting. However, not quite as good as the Carnarvon's 400, but yeah. Shell cost, the premium rounds are quite expensive, but obviously remember you are doing 440 out for a shot. The standard rounds, I don't know how much they are, actually pretty cheap. 890 credits, which means if you do fire just pure standard, yes, you will have to get quite close because, yeah, the enemies, if you're trying to fire at something that's on the move, although I say that, the first shell I ever fired in this tank, I hit an even 90 from about 300 meters when it was going at full speed. I was like, okay, so it's not that bad. So you do have to kind of learn how to give lead, but it's not too bad, and the shell cost, being able to do 440 alpha for that low shell cost, you will actually make half decent credits. Anyway, let's jump over into the game, and I'll take you through my equipment setup and everything like that, and then we'll go through the post-game stats at the end. Okay, Max, go home, you're drunk. Yeah, I may or may not have completely forgot that I was going to do armor, so we're going to do the armor quickly. Yeah, this thing's armor isn't actually that bad. Again, it's one of those things, it kind of surprised me, like how good this tank's armor actually is. And it does have kind of a trick up its sleeve. So on flat ground, turret is relatively weak if you hit. This is a live viewer with the Charlemagne shooting back at itself. So 220mm a pen. Obviously, being 220mm a pen, that is pretty much a standard tier 8 tank. Turret, little bit weak around just outside the mantler, only about 200mm of effective armor, which obviously if you're facing tier 6s, tier 7s isn't that bad. The rest of the turret is pretty good, all pretty much an auto bounce. There is a small cupola, it's not huge, it will be hit a little bit, but not too bad. However, the hull armor is actually really, really, really good. A pike nose, kind of a bit like an IS-3, and if you're on flat ground pointing straight at the enemy, you've got pretty much 220 millimeters of effective armor everywhere, including the lower plate. So, if you angle slightly and try and get them to hit your outside plate, hit your inside plate, move up and down on ridges so that your upper plate and then your lower plate become more steeply angled, you can actually get some really decent armor out of this thing and make it really tricky for people to pen. I have in the couple of games that I've played, I have been bouncing quite a lot of shells, and I think that's because, like, if you look at this armor viewer, and if you were looking at this armor viewer in game as you were shooting one of these, you go, oh well, I'll just shoot it in the turret. That's easy. However, World of Tanks has taught you, if you've played any kind of amount of games of World of Tanks, which if you're at tier 8, I'd like to think you have. Obviously, you've always get the people who just buy their way up to tier 8. But World of Tanks teaches you that 99% of tanks, if you're going to shoot them somewhere, it's not the front of the turret. So a lot of people won't shoot you in the front of the turret just out of the principle of, I don't want to shoot a tank in the front of the turret. That being said as well, this thing has the bonus of it's brand new at the moment, and I don't think it's going to be a tank that loads and loads of people buy. Even if they put it on general sale, I still don't think this tank would be like people going, oh yeah, let me snap that up, I want me some of that. So I think this tank will get the benefit of not a lot of people will learn that the front of the turret is actually like as weak as it is, and people will still continue to shoot at your front or hull armor and not actually do that well. This thing can also side scrape, as you can see here. If you side scrape around like this, you have got to be slightly careful because of you're then angling that that kind of like IS-3 pike nose in. But the side armor is really good, 70 millimeters thick, and it has got a slight downwards angle on it as well, which is quite nice. It gives you just that little bit extra extra protection, which isn't actually that bad. Track's pretty good as well, like pretty chunky track, so you're not going to shoot through that. And yeah, I'll just give you a kind of a spin round of the vehicle so you can see which bits you will and won't bounce off. But that that upper lower plate combination, to me it feels like pretty much exactly like an IS-3's nose, and arguably probably better because I think this tank is a little bit taller. That was always the thing with the IS-3, is you were always kind of shooting down at it, so it was always a bit like this, whereas this tank's a little bit taller, so you kind of you're 50-50 whether you're shooting the upper or lower plate, and if you get a low pen roll, you're going to bounce off it. It's simple as that. Anyway, now let's go jump over into the garage, and we'll go over the equipment. Right, so nice and quickly, guys, let's go over the equipment of this tank. Now, obviously, it being a British heavy tank, you can put your S-Con crew in it. Your S-Con crew fits quite nicely. If you've got a chieftain as well, obviously it being the same crew for me, you can fit that crew in. So I've got a very, very nice crew in this tank, 6 skills. I'm not going to go through crew skills because I feel like they're a little redundant these days. Everyone's got such high crew, and you can get the crew up trained so quick with crew books and everything like that, and boosters and blah blah blah, that like it doesn't matter now. It's not like you actually, like back in 2014 2015 where you had to pick the what crew skills you wanted, because you like getting a 3 skill crew was really quite tricky, so you need to make sure you made them count. So going over equipment, I've gone for a gun rammer, vert stabs, and improved aiming combination. Now, I'm just kind of still playing around with the equipment at the minute. I will let you know what I think of each piece of equipment. So my justification for doing this, the vert stabs, I wasn't actually aware when I first equipped this tank of just how good the dispersions were. So potentially in my head, I'm thinking it might be worth dropping the vert stabs and putting maybe improved vents to get like everything down a little bit better. It might be worth maybe rotation, although I'm still not a huge fan of rotation. Like, everyone's like, oh my god, rotation's so good. I'm like, I'd still prefer vert stabs, like, most of the time. I do think this tank could benefit from a turbo, 100%. Like, turbo is a good thing that you could put on it. So, in my opinion, the improved aiming is quite necessary. 0.44 dispersion really sucks. So, having, like you see here, Brothers in Arms putting in T brings it down a bit, but the improved aiming brings it down a hell of a lot more. I think with .44, you find that when you start getting above, like, knife fighting ranges, you're gonna start to actually feel that dispersion is really, really poor, and you're gonna want to make it better. So I do think that improved aiming is actually something that's quite necessary on this tank. Gun rammer, obviously, again, being quite necessary on the tank, just to get your DPM up as much as you can. Mine's nearly sat at 2k. Enhanced gun lane drive is actually potentially an option. Bring that aim time down. You could probably go for quite a cool combination of improved aiming, enhanced gun lane drive on this thing, so that your aim circle with the dispersion starts quite small. Because you've got that improved aiming, it's even smaller, and then it aims even quicker with the enhanced gun lane drive, and I think that could be quite a good combination. Like I said before, vents, definitely an option, and turbo. So I would probably say these top 6 are definitely all options. So vents, rotation if you fancy it, gun lane drive, vert stabs, improved aiming, gun rammer, and also I would say turbo. Obviously, there is an argument for optics, but I do just genuinely think that these days, with all of the new equipment, optics has kind of fallen off. You can see that's why I have 12 of them spare. Like, I've taken them off several tanks. It's one of those things. I've got 430 meters view range. I'm a heavy tank. I'm not really going to be spotting at that range, and there's not a huge amount of situations where that's actually going to massively benefit me. So I'd much rather go with improving the gun. Other than that, obviously you've got your other boys, but I don't think, maybe improved hardening if you really fancied it. Obviously you get more hit points, you get the better suspension repair speed and stuff like that. Modified configuration, sorry. I'm quite a fan of modified configuration. I don't run it on many tanks because I feel there are better pieces of equipment, but again, it's not an awful shout. You got that repair speed, you're not going to lose your internal modules. And if you do lose internal modules, you aren't going to suffer with quite as big a penalty of them. So like loading speed and engine power, stuff like that. So again, if you really wanted to, it is an option. I genuinely think that if you put like some bonds into this, or you put some of your bounty equipment into this, I do genuinely think you could make this into quite a good, quite a fun tier 8 tank. I do genuinely think that this could be quite a fun tank if you put like some bond and well, even as it is, I genuinely think it's quite a good tank. But if you put some bond equipment on it and stuff like that, or some bounty equipment, I think you can make this thing into quite a good little tank. I think it could be quite fun. But anyway, obviously all of those options are up to you. I will play around with it a bit more, and I may do a how to play and set up on that. And I've kind of, my how to play and set up videos, they're kind of like a follow-up to a tank review. So I'll do like a tank review, and then I'll do a how to play and set up if I find, like, after playing 50 or 100 games or something, I find a setup that's like, right, this is where it's at. This is the best I can think of. And I think I might start doing that with a couple more tanks. But anyway, that is the Charlemagne. Overall, I would say, honestly, it's a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I did genuinely, when I was looking at the stats, I was like, oh, I'm just getting this thing for the benefits of making content. I'm just getting it because, you know, I'm a tank collector. I'm trying to get all of the tanks in the game. But after playing it a couple of times through, genuinely a lot better than I thought. Quite fun as well. Like having 10 degrees gun depression, 440 alpha, just being able to slap people, good dispersions. It's actually genuinely a pretty good tank. So, yeah. I hope that has helped, guys. If that has helped you in any way, please make sure you give the video a like. I'm obviously same as bloody everyone on YouTube, I know, but massively trying to grow my channel at the minute, and apparently, according to every other channel, the YouTube algorithm favors likes, so please give the video a like. Ha ha ha. But genuinely, all jokes aside, please do. Please make sure you're subscribed as well. Make sure you've got notifications on, and we will just go take a very quick look at the post-game stats from the game. So, there we go, guys. That was an ace tanker. We also got a high caliber, which is quite nice. We blocked 1500 damage with our armor. Like I said, shooting up as well. When you're hull down, this is something that I've kind of got to mention, but when you're hull down, obviously, if you then do expose a little bit of your armor, because your upper plate is quite good, and because they're obviously below you, it's going to bounce, which is always quite nice. We got 600 assisted on the Skoda, obviously, at the end there with those tanks sitting behind me. So unfortunate that he didn't die quicker than he did. Like, one more tick, like probably 5% less firefighting across his crew. If he had firefighting, would have probably meant I would have survived. But there you go. We also did 4,769 damage, which is very nice. Nearly 4.8k. 2 kills as well. Very, very nice. Finished top on the team on damage, top on the team on XP. 1,385 base XP was enough for the ace. Don't actually know what the ace is in this thing. I got 1,000 base, was a second class. So obviously, I think that was probably quite a high second class, and this was probably quite a low ace, if I'm being honest. Fired 12 shots, hit 11, penned 11, which, I'm not going to lie, that kind of pen ratio, with that aim time, with that accuracy, you would not expect that. Which shows just how good the dispersions on this vehicle really are. We died after 4 minutes as well, which shows the DPM isn't that much of an issue. Like, you can work around it. And this tank does actually make a half decent amount of credits as well, which is actually quite nice. Obviously, I did have personal reserves and battle payments on, but 92,000 base credits isn't too bad. Obviously, I did fire quite a lot of premium rounds because I needed to at the end there. It was like, make every shot count. But yeah, all in all, like I just said, really pretty decent tank, actually. Like, a surprisingly good tank. Anyway, as I just said, guys, make sure you give the video a like. Obviously, if you've enjoyed it or found it useful in any way. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. Make sure you turn notifications on and all that. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.